Welcome back, Woodward Wings. I am Justin Satawa, and this is Flannel Sam. We apologize for the missed episode last weekend. We had some technical difficulties in the studio, but we are back and better than ever. Unfortunately, the Red Wings are not, though. Let's
No.
just call it how it is, unfortunately. And I don't hate to be harsh and I hate to be brash, but we are opening this episode, and I'm old yeller in this thing. This thing is over. I'm willing to say you needed to beat the Blues last night or 2 nights ago. The fact that you had the lead for the entire game until the last 9 seconds and you let up that it was a nice play by the Blues, but you really could had needed to bail Cam Talbot out there. He really was playing a more remarkable game, and that's just an absolute season killer right there.
Yeah, honestly, you definitely needed to beat the Blues. You probably honestly needed to beat Ottawa too in order to have a realistic opportunity because all of the sudden, because teams tend to do this, the Canadians were cold for a little while. Now they're hot again. The Rangers have won a couple. And as of right now, the Red Wings, not only are they 4 points behind, they're behind like four other teams, and they have the toughest remaining schedule. So absolutely old yeller without a shadow of a doubt. It's depressing to say, but it's reality.
Yeah, and it sucks because they did look really, really good against the Bruins, and they played a good game, and they looked like they had some jump and that they maybe were going to find their way back on track, and then they put up a decent effort against the Blues, but then just it's the story of this entire season. The defense is just lax at the end of the game when you need to stop the most. You can't have your defense step up for you, and you let up a goal with, and then once you went into overtime, you kind of knew that you were cooked. I mean, they had all the momentum. You were on your heels for the last 5 minutes of the third period, and they came out. Cam Fowler had a beautiful backhand top shelf goal against Talbot, which just it's just brutal. There's no other way to say it. I think that with everyone's expectations of the season, to be a playoff team, and now we're just right on the cusp again, really hurts the fans. But I don't want to go out and be like, "Oh, the season was a failure. We didn't weren't good enough. We didn't see the improvement that I was hoping for." Because we did see the improvement across the board. There was a lot of people who took a next step, and I'm excited to see this team next year. How are you feeling about your overall feelings about the season?
You're I can't give too many definitive ones right now because I, for one, and maybe this is not where I should place my energy, but it just is what it is. I want to see them fight to end the year. If somehow, some way that the Red Wings just lay down and win two more games or less the rest of the year, which is possible, by the way, look at their schedule, and they finish this season with less points than they did 2 years ago, then I'm feeling upset. Like it was a failure. You can never take away, you saw Marco Casper be really good. You can never take away what you saw from Albert Johansson. You can't take away that Mo Sider continues to develop and that Lucas Raymond is a legit point per game guy. You can't, and Alex DeBrincat for that matter too. You can't take those things away. But with all that being said, if this is a 79-point team, I mean, God forbid if it's a 79-point team, you've got to look at all the ways in which it went wrong. And unfortunately, there are many of those reasons.
Yeah, if you can't, that is an issue. I just genuinely for this point in your rebuild because of the fact that's not a ton of points. You put up over that number last year. The East was just as wide open as it was this year, and you won't always go back to the fact that Lalonde was the coach for the first half of the year, and it's hard to just take that away from them. But that's the truth. You put them in that position, and they had to fight back for it constantly. But the way that they're playing to end the season is not okay. Like, let's talk about the fact that Dylan Larkin hasn't recorded a point in 5 games. Like, like I'm the one that sat at the rooftop screaming like Dylan Larkin can be your 1C. Dylan Larkin can be your 1C. But even as a 1C, you still have to produce points. You can't just fall off the face of the earth when the team needs the most.
Well, and we've mentioned it before when we've just been talking about this team that the wing spot opposite Lucas Raymond, it's been a revolving door. It hasn't been consistent, whether it's been Marco Casper, whether it's been Soderblom, even I think it was Rasmussen for a game or two when they were just trying some new
They
things.
played Cannon to Brinkett together with him in the last couple of games.
Absolutely. It hasn't exactly been consistent, and that's gonna hurt production to some point. But at the end of the day, I'm just gonna call a spade a spade. The last two seasons, over the totality of the two, Dylan Larkin was exactly a point per game. Like on the nose, exactly a point per game. 62 points in 75 games, that's not going to get it done. And I'm not saying that he's been terrible and that there aren't caveats like the one that I mentioned at the beginning, but in order for this team to be a playoff team, we agree Dylan Larkin needs to be a point per game. And if he's giving you this kind of production, you absolutely can question whether or not he's a 1C. Even on a playoff level team, it's unfortunate to say we saw a lot of great things from him, but this type of production, I think even he would tell you, it's not, this is going to sound harsh, but it's not acceptable if the Red Wings are going to go where even this year's ceiling was to take them.
100%. And it's hard because you saw last year when he got hurt. This team is so dependent on Dylan Larkin to be one of their best players, regardless if he's scoring points or not. And he's had a couple good games, but he has been an absence on the score sheet, and that's just not okay. Like you said, 62 points in 70-plus games is a little under the number for him, and he needs to be able to take that leap back to where he was to that point per game, because like he doesn't have to be the best scorer on this team, but he has to be one of the most consistent scorers on this team.
Yeah, and unfortunately, that just hasn't always been the case, and hopefully he's better moving forward. He's shown multiple times that he can be a point-per-game guy, but this year, unless he goes on some torrid pace, which I don't see, he's going to fall short of everyone's expectations for him, at least when it comes to production.
Yes, and someone who has been falling short in my eyes a little bit lately has been Lucas Raymond, and we have said very great things about Lucas Raymond. He showed a ton of promise, but he has not necessarily had this explosive second half that everyone expected after the Four Nations face-off. And the revolving door of the wingers are definitely a factor, but he doesn't look like he's as comfortable out there. He looks like he's not playing with as much freedom and flow that he was playing with a couple months ago. It looks like the physicality of the March style game where everyone's trying to pick up points, it becomes more grittier, more defensively based. It's kind of shifted his game a little bit away from what was working for him. And he also hasn't been this like killer when he has the puck on his stick. He is one of the best goal scorers on the team. I know that's not necessarily his forte, but he still is one of the best goal scorers in this team. And there are times where he has the puck and I want him to shoot a kill shot. Like when Patrick Kane has the puck on his stick and he's open, he's shooting for a kill shot. I want Lucas Raymond to develop that sense, and that's something that probably will come in the offseason. But that's the one flaw in his game that I think has been very obvious, was the fact that when he has the puck on his stick, he's not going to kill it in the back of the net. He's going to score sometimes, but he's not shooting as that killer.
And I'm glad that you mentioned that, sort of the nuances as to why, because I think going into next year, and this is going to sound harsh, but work with me on this. There is one allegation that I think that Lucas Raymond is going to have to answer for next year. And don't get me wrong, I am thrilled with the fact that Lucas Raymond is fourth in the whole bleeping NHL in power play points. Thrilled beyond belief. And he's been money for the most part in the power play, particularly with his distributing. But is there going to be an allegation going into next year of power play merchant? You mentioned it when it comes to physical defenses, which obviously when you're on the power play, you have the advantage, and the fact that he's not going for the kill shot as often as you think that he should, and as often as I think he should, for that matter. I think all of that goes into this big stew of why he's damn near half of his points are in the power play. I mean, you look at everybody else in the top 10 of power play points. You see names like Nikita Kucherov or Nate McKinnon or Jack Eichel, who's having the most productive season of his career, Leon Draisaitl, Mitch Marner. I'm not saying Lucas Raymond has to be those guys, but 35 power points, play points at this stage of the season, I would expect at least 80 to 85 points, at least.
Yeah.
Only has 73.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. I can't say anything bad about that, because I agree. I think that Lucas Raymond has a step to take in the 5-on-5 department. I think there's a reason why we struggle with 5-on-5 scoring from 1 to 4. It's every line, and then there's issues with every single line. So although we're critiquing Raymond in the highest form, that he is not the main cause of this collapse. Let's just
Absolutely
call it
not.
how it is. He still has played a level season, and we are just nitpicking at this point. Okay, let's call it like it is right now. But what really killed this team were the injuries, and one in particular was Andrew Kopp, and the reason is he is truly brings so much in the PK, something our team struggles with immensely. And that is a +4, a plus in general. He's +4. He's the only forward to have a plus rating. Simon Edmondson is the only other Red Wing with a plus rating, which is shows how bad this team is 5-on-5. And when you lose a player who is just sustaining your entire defensive mind at the center position, I think that really killed this team. And then it also showed the weakness in the depth all the way down. I think if you would have been able to move Marco Casper to a center role earlier, you would have had 4 very legitimate centers. Instead of now, it feels like we only have 2 because Confer isn't good enough to play third line center. He's good enough to play fourth line center, but he's not good enough to play third line center.
It's it's not a good state of affairs when an Andrew Kopp injury really derails everything, because you're right, it has. Andrew Kopp does provide a lot. You mentioned him on the PK. You mentioned that he has a positive plus minus. You mentioned that he wins faceoffs. We all know he wins faceoffs. He was the only other one of 2 players, I believe, on the team with a higher than 50% faceoff percentage, and that means possession. And Andrew Kopp, he was that steady enough to see. He wasn't perfect, but he was the best man for that job. And he was also a veteran who's been in a lot of these type of situations. But at the end of the day, if you're a more well-constructed team, an Andrew Kopp injury shouldn't kill you. You can almost blame, last year, I really hate the way that the season ended, but we look at Dylan Larkin as, okay, if Larkin were healthy, they probably would have made the playoffs. I'll just say that they would have, even though it doesn't matter. But this year, we're talking about Andrew Kopp. Obviously, they've had other injuries to Petrie and now Gustafsson and Peter Mrazek, but when we talk about injuries, the main one is definitely Andrew Kopp.
Yeah, and also Peter Mrazek. Peter Mrazek being out for the last couple of games has kind of been brutal as well.
Sure.
He was really playing some really nice hockey, really showing his quality, and that seems like it's going to be a steal of a trade. You're going to have him next year. Probably going to have the opportunity to flip him if you want, and it just really is for in terms of Andrew Kopp. It just exposed the depth, and the depth is just where this all circles back to every time I have this conversation. Free agent signings, whether it's the kids not being ready, it's that this team just lacks depth. Every single night you see it. And also a part of that is the goaltending is not comfortable. And it wasn't comfortable until Mrazek got there. If we remember, before Mrazek got there, Talbot and Lyon were both sputtering. They were
Sure.
both awful. Both were letting up mediocre goals left and right. And then Mrazek comes in and really settles down that position. I am just so curious if the reason why they won't go to Kosa is because they are afraid of how bad this decor is and how bad the offensive defense, the forwards are at playing defense as well. Us as a unit are just lackluster when it comes to defense, and I think that's the main reason why they're not giving Kosa a chance. Kosa was up here. They didn't even give him a look. So ASP is currently in his playoffs. He's also playing very well. So is Michael Bronzig-Nygaard. He's actually finding his legs in the playoffs for their Swedish team. But the one thing that I want is for them to be eliminated. And I hate to say that, and I hate to be that guy, but they've already confirmed that ASP will be headed over to the United States once their season is over. And I am praying. The Red Wings are out now. They are probably they're just way too far down the standings for you to even consider the fact that they're going to make a run. They're going to have to make a run against the best teams in the NHL. What better can you do for your number one prospect than put him into the fire? Give him a chance to play against the best of the best.
Do you actually think that they would do that? Like, honest question. And I'm not mad at you for whatever answer. I understand the hope and the optimism, and that it would really make us fans feel good if he were to go in there and succeed. But is this actually something that you think the Red Wings would consider doing?
I do think they would consider this because the fact that he's already played the level of competition that he'll play in the AHL. But just maybe one or two to kind of just give them you just need to give these guys a taste of where they need to be when they're ready to play in the NHL. And that's what I'm about. You saw it last year with the Tigers when they started giving players the opportunities and then sending them back down. And then you brought them back up and they were ready again. After you sent them back down and gave them that time in the minors to figure out what they figure out. The NHL exposes weaknesses. And any weakness that ASP has, it will be exposed in the NHL game. And then he can go down to the AHL, tinker with it, figure it out, and then be ready possibly early next season to start the season if you give him a chance this year. But what I can guarantee you is if he doesn't touch the NHL ice in the end of this season, he will not be there to start the next season. They will want him in the AHL working on his craft before he is ready to be on the NHL roster.
No, I would love it. I'm all for it. I think that it would give the fans, and I understand they don't care about the fans in terms of like their roster decisions, but we talk about, and I've mentioned it before to sort of combine this with a lot of the other young guys. I mentioned this on Wake Up Woodward, that my Red Wings mental health would be teetering a lot more if I hadn't seen what I've seen from Marco Kasper and Albert Johansson and even Elmer Soderblom. Yep. It would be just good.
And Edvinsson.
Yeah. Edvinsson, but I already knew a little bit about Edvinsson, but certainly Edvinsson, 100% for sure. He is a dude. He's going to be a staple of this team, no doubt about it. And if ASP can just play a couple of games and you could see that skill set, you could see him out there and possibly looking better than other veteran defensemen that we've had on this team, and maybe even getting a point or two because he's he's definitely an offensive defenseman. That would be absolutely huge. And one thing that we can't question Steve Yzerman about, this is why I've said that I have more confidence in Nate Danielson working out, ASP working out, Sebastian Cossa working out, Michael Brandes-Nygard working out. I have more confidence in that than what he'll do in free agency because we've seen it. And I'm not saying
absolutely fair.
I'm not saying you necessarily have to fast track these guys, but Marco Kasper's already there. Johansson's already there. Edvinsson's already there. And all the others have shown a ton of promise. And if you're telling me that ASP can be with the Wings, even if it's just for 5 or 6 games, sign me up. Imagine how much better we'd feel if he goes out there and looks good. Then you can't call this season a failure.
Yeah. And prominent that are over 40 players who have come out of college and have started playing in the NHL right away. They signed their contracts. They've made their NHL debut, one of the most in recent history, and it's showing that the NHL is just so much more ready to give these guys a chance. Like Ryan Leonard just went out and played his first 2 games as a Capital rookie on a team that's a 1 seed that should have their roster completely locked up, but he's a intriguing prospect who can add this young hints of energy to the team, and they're willing to do it, and they're a playoff team. Why not the Wings, who are sputtering out of control, who need this birth of life on the defensive end? When he is done with his season, I don't want to call him for malpractice if he doesn't get a game or two, but I just think for his development in the long run, being able to see what the NHL game has for him is so important, where I'm willing to maybe give him a little knockdown in the confidence, which everyone's always afraid of, so he can see it, so he can see where he has to be. I think that's very beneficial.
You made probably one of the best points you've made all day. If the Capitals can do it with Ryan Leonard, then the Capitals are the 1 seed. They have Stanley Cup aspirations, and they're still being forward thinking. The Red Wings, especially with their defensive deficiencies, why the F not? I guess if you want to say you don't want ASP playing with the likes that he'd be playing with on lower defensive lines, but I don't even think that excuse necessarily flies. Put him, honestly, and this is going to sound insane, but I think you'll like it.
I know you're going to say it.
Put him with Seider.
Yep.
Put him with Seider. Just do it. Absolutely.
Yep. Give him a chance. And if you want to make sure that he doesn't go out there and look pedestrian, put him with someone who is used to be playing alone out there. Like Mo Seider constantly feels like he is the only defenseman on the ice, and you put him with ASP. You tell ASP, hey, go crazy, go control the game offensively, Mo's got you back there. He needs you when he needs you. Other than that, go do you, go be you, and go learn the NHL game. And that's what I want to see, and I'd love to see it, and I think it'd be so beneficial for him as a player.
You know what? You've convinced me. ASP or we riot. Maybe not that extreme, but if the Capitals can do it, right?
If,
That
if
was a great
any
point.
team could do, every team is
Yes.
bringing up their younger players, and I want to see it. Give me a
Yes.
look, give me a taste. Like if
Yes.
we're already choking the season down our leg, like let's give me a little excitement, give me a little ASP.
Give me a
For
little.
God's sake, come on.
Absolutely. Give me ASP, and we're gonna keep giving you guys Woodward Wings every single week. And is that a show, my friend?
Yes, that is a show, a very fun show. We got you for next week. Sorry about the technical difficulties. We will avoid them moving forward. We were very bummed last week, and sorry we couldn't bring you the content. But make sure you also drop some questions down in the comments. I've been reading them. I always keep forgetting to ask for mailbag questions. So please, if you have any questions that you want me and Sam to go over, please drop them down below. We will get to answer them. Hit a like, hit a subscribe, leave a comment if you just like the content. We don't care. But this is Justin. That is Flannel Sam. We will catch you in the next one. This is Woodward Wings. Peace.